132,000 miles. Does that sound like a lot to you? Well, a few years ago, I at least would have said, oh yeah, that's a lot of miles. But after maturing, well, at least a bit, I've realised that maintenance matters most. Let's have a look around this 2014 BMW 530d so I can show you what I mean. My name's Tom, and you are watching Paragon Cars. Let's go! Now, before we have a look around this car, I just want to show you something. You see that? These are the seats on a 132,000 mile car. Now, I don't know about you, but most 100,000 mile plus car seats I've seen have been in a right state compared to these. So, previous owner, I commend you. Anyway, let's talk numbers. This is the N57 inline 6 diesel. In this 530d trim, it puts out 258 horsepower and 560 Nm of torque to the rear wheels via the ZF 8-speed transmission. Overall, this is a very reliable engine as long as you keep up with maintenance. Doing oil changes at the right time is very important for this engine, otherwise you can and probably will damage the timing chain. According to a mechanic though, this car is in impeccable condition, and I'm not surprised, especially when you look at the interior. So I am indeed confident that this engine has a lot of life left in it before it finally goes bang. Let's put proof in the pudding though, and see what this torquey BMW can muster on the 30 to 70 sprint. Well, look at that, we managed bang on 5.8 seconds. That's exactly where it should be given the power to weight ratio, and overall I'd say that's a very decent time indeed. As fast as an Abarth 595 and quicker than a Fiesta ST. Inside this LCI, meaning facelifted version of the F10 5 Series, is an aging but certainly not old interior. We still have a digital dash and all the mod cons like Bluetooth audio. One thing I love about this car in particular though is the extended storage pack. You get this little felt-lined cubby next to the driver's seat for your secret stash. Anyway, the rear offers an adequate amount of room for adults, not huge but good enough I'd say. You then get a very nice armrest with extra storage and cup holders that stay out the way when not in use. Lovely stuff, BMW. The boot's also pretty decent, and not just because it has 439 litres of usable space. It has shopping hooks, nets and little release handles to fold down the rear seats. Annoyingly, they don't go down by themselves once you've released them though, so you still have to do the old walk around and fold them down jobby. But once they are down, the BMW 530d does have a pretty flat load floor. All in all, pretty decent I'd say. Right, in the famous words of Ray Charles, let's hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more. So then, is this thing a ticking time bomb? Well, we'll get into that in a minute, but one thing I want to mention first is that this car is ULEZ compliant. I thought ULEZ compliancy only came out in 2016 for diesel cars, but apparently not. This is a Euro 6 diesel car, so you could drive this thing round London like a ULEZ compliant car. Pretty cool, right? Anyway, driving this 530d around town. Suspension feels very comfortable. No knocking noises. Steering's nice and light. Can already tell it doesn't have any feel, really. But, you know, that's just an F10 5 Series. I'm sure we can exploit it a little bit later and see if it's any better once you're going quicker, but a lot of owners of these cars say the steering is completely dead. But for just pootling around in, absolutely lovely. Very quiet, very comfortable. You can get the seat nice and low. My elbows can reach the armrests. It's typical BMW stuff, really. I just can't believe how good this car looks, considering it's done 132,000 miles. It does really go to show that it's the owner and the maintenance that make a car look good. I've seen cars that have done 20,000 miles that look worse than this. Anyway, back to the seats. Of course, you can adjust the pitch of the base. They're nice and wide as well. You've got a little extendable bit for your thighs. It's just a very comfortable car. The only thing I don't like is these indicators. For some reason, back in the early 2010s, BMW decided to put these blip indicators in cars where they don't actually stay down. And whilst you can get used to it, it's just not as good as the regular indicator that stays down. Hence the reason BMW went back to proper indicators. Anyway, parking this rather bargy BMW is actually fairly easy if you're good at parking. Completely cock that up. You've got a reverse camera with lines telling you where you're going to go, nice accurate parking sensors as well, and yeah, as I said, if you're good at parking, clearly I'm not, this thing is very easy to drive. And even though this car's 10 years old, you've still got these little rectangles that come up, and I just find them absolutely awesome, because especially at night, if you're reversing near bollards and stuff that you can't really see, those will come up and tell you you're about to hit something, which has saved me on more than one occasion. I know I say it in like every BMW review, but I do want to drive it home just how good that system is. Anyway, once you're in a parking space, getting out of this thing, it's not too bad. You can, you know, most of the time you can get to the first notch, but it is a 5 Series at the end of the day, so if you're parking in like a supermarket car park in London, it can sometimes be a little bit tight. But again, it's something you get used to. The visibility is actually pretty good in this, I will say that. You've got nice low slung windows, even though you're sitting low. Wing mirrors, pretty good, pretty easy to see out of. You've got a nice curved bit of glass as well, so you can see in your blind spot. Everything's just very easy. It's a very well designed car actually. Anyway, coming out of junctions, we've got start stop off, because no one wants that. Give it half throttle, and that 560 Newton meters of torque comes into life. It's an absolute beast, this engine. So smooth as well when you combine it with that ZF 8-speed gearbox. Right then, let's reset our trip computer, and we can see what kind of MPG we can get on the motorway. Now, BMW say this will do 47 to 51 MPG on the combined / extra urban cycle. It does say you can get like 57 miles per gallon, but I try and be honest at least, and the combined cycle is the figure that I quote, purely because it's usually more accurate, right? Anyway, before we go and see what kind of MPG it can manage, let's get ourselves into Sports Plus, get the traction off, and see how this, well, not old, but aging car handles. Right then, let's get ourselves into Sports Plus, gearbox into Sports as well. This will drop another gear, make the changes even more aggressive. Traction turns off, but we still have stability control, which is kind of like a MDN. It's like a M dynamic mode, even though it's not really called that. It's basically the same thing. Gearbox nice and smooth, very responsive. Yeah. This gearbox really is masterful, isn't it? 10 years old and it drives just like new. Anyway, give it a little blip. And yeah, doesn't really go sideways so much. But very quick. 132,000 miles and this engine feels absolutely à point. Genuinely, if someone told me this car's done like 30,000 miles, I'd be like, yeah, of course. One thing that I really don't understand though is how the seat bolster hasn't worn more, because usually they absolutely fall apart in these. So the previous owner must have been like stick thin. I know if I owned this car it would certainly be completely destroyed. We're looking at getting new seats. Also, by the way, we are riding on Michelin PS5 tyres and it's dry, so trying to break traction even with nearly 600 Newton meters of torque is going to be pretty much impossible. But you know, you've still got that rear wheel drive feeling that just makes it an absolute pleasure to drive. So quiet. Amazing. I'm actually falling in love with this car already. It's just unbelievably smooth. Gosh. Right then. Let's get my rose tinted glasses off and be a bit more critical, shall we? Let's go into Eco, see what that's like coming onto the motorway. So one thing I don't like about this digital dash is that it gets rid of the rev counter when you go in Eco. I think having like a power reserve meter is a bit chintzy, in all honesty. I know it's like Rolls-Roycey, but it's not the same thing really. But yeah, getting up to 70 miles an hour is just like, you just don't even have to press the throttle basically. Ooh, very nice. Wouldn't mind one of those. But But yeah, easily get up to 70 miles an hour. Wow, this thing is unbelievably quiet. No rattles, no squeaks, no wind noise. Just serenity. Honestly, you could do a 12-hour journey in this and you would get out of the car feeling more relaxed. You would actually want to stay in the car. It's that comfortable. Yeah, so obviously the tyres play quite a big role in how quiet this car is, but yeah, very little road noise, very little wind noise. Again, visibility is very good. You've got that curved bit of glass, as I mentioned before, that just shows you your blind spot. Just a very easy car to drive. This on the Autobahn would be absolutely stellar. You could sit at 140, 50 miles an hour, you know, listening to tunes on your Harman Kardon sound system. By the way, you definitely want to get one with a Harman Kardon sound system. The stock system in these older F10s is absolutely pants, especially if you want to listen to music properly. But the Harman Kardon system, I would say it's just about good enough. You know, it's got good bass, good mids, highs are a bit lackluster, but it's good enough. I really like this car. Like £10,000 as well. That's a bit of a steal, really. Now, we'll get on to why it seems a little bit on the cheaper side in a minute. And yes, it is to do with reliability. Or like potential reliability, shall I say. Coming around this corner, it feels pretty nice. Just very smooth. Oh yeah, the steering though, like when you're sort of slightly off centre, no feel. It's just very inert. Does the job, that's about it. Anyway, let's get on the motorway now in eco. Hopefully it's a clear day on the M25 so we can get an accurate result for once. And let's see what kind of MPG we can manage. Well, just as you think you've got a clear day on the M25, someone decided to have an accident, so we are coming off slightly earlier than we usually would. However, we have still done 40.7 miles per gallon, and that figure is going up very quickly. So I think on a long journey, you'll easily get over 50 miles per gallon, which for a car that's done 132,000 miles, 10 years old, not old, but aging, as I said, I think that's really good. I think that's a really, really decent figure, which means to a tank in this thing, you're getting like over 600 miles quite easily, which if you're doing a journey up Scotland, you can go pretty much there and back without having to refuel. How cool is that? Anyway, now we've done the MPG test, let's do the handling test. Let's see how a 132,000 mile 5 Series drives, and then let's talk about potential reliability issues, shall we? Alrighty then, back into Sports Plus, gearbox, into Sports as well. I'm going to leave it in Sports for now and then go to manual just to see what it does and see where the shift points are, shall we? But already you can feel the engine waking up from eco mode. Brakes, 100-yard marker, yes, very good. This car does have brand new discs and pads on it, so it brakes like basically when it was brand new. Absolutely lovely to drive though. Suspension keeps the chassis pretty flat, a little bit of roll, but I'm splitting hairs there. Steering, still a bit poo. It's really not that good, but the engine is mighty. Wow, everything's flying everywhere. People want to change lanes, but they're not going to. Gearbox and engine still working in harmony, getting the job done. Yeah, brakes, even though they are brand new, they get the job done, but it's that typical BMW thing where they feel a bit spongy on the initial bite. Not the end of the world, but it's a bit disconcerting sometimes. Great, we've got more traffic today. It's always fun and games when there's no painted lines on roundabouts. driver said, "Good luck, everyone else."
Good luck, everybody else!
An iX M60. It's a bit of a beast, isn't it? Let's see if we can keep up with that, shall we? I'm telling you now, we can't, because that's a very quick car, even though it's a big old SUV. Torque is absolutely delicious in this. The way it comes in as well is really pleasant. Like above 2,000 RPM, it builds quickly but smoothly. You don't get like a sudden wave of torque. It's just like this quick but smooth build up. It's lovely. Right, let's go for manual gears now. How fast those changes are. Changes are so quick, the digital screen can't actually keep up. Yeah, the digital dash in these is a bit laggy, shall I say? The frame rate on it is just pants. Just holds onto the road. You could get this thing to break traction in the wet, but in the dry, I mean, it is just beastly. Do you need a car that's faster than that? Absolutely blimmin' not. That is easily fast enough. And like, even if I slow down, right, still in 5th gear, 50 miles an hour, just plant your foot. And just look at how quick that builds. It is crazy. So yeah, on the wide open stuff, handles well, it's never gonna sort of chuck you about too much. But, you know, it's not the most exciting BMW to drive. You know, if you're used to a sort of M-Light, then this might feel a bit sort of inert. But it's just very pleasant, it's very smooth. Absolutely nothing wrong with it at all. Still better than an Audi, especially of this period. Audis from 2014 were not known for their handling prowess. In fact, let's go round once more. Kind of intrigued. Give it a bit of gas. Yeah. Stability control says no, basically. Doesn't want me to have too much fun. And Michelin PS5s, if you've driven a car that has them, you'll know for a fact that they are very, very grippy tyres. It's that mid-range torque though. For like 8/10 road driving, it's just bang on. Look how much grip you have. Dabble the brakes, you can get it to rotate a little bit. When you really push it, it does turn to understeer just a little bit. But you know, you've got so much torque that you can just power out of it, really. I'm just going to demonstrate that torque again. So 5th gear, 50 miles an hour, 2,000 RPM. Put your foot down and look at that. That's a lot of torque. So on the smoother stuff, we know it's nice, it's pleasant at least, not too crazy. What happens when you take this thing down a pothole British B road though? Well, as usual, I think we should go and find out. Right then, still in sports. Let's see what we can do in this thing then, shall we? A little bit of wheel spin. I just love the fact you don't even feel the need to rev this engine out because it's just got so much mid-range punch. Steering a little bit laggy. Nothing crazy though. Coming over bumps. Pretty good. I'll give that suspension like an 8 out of 10. Whew, it's just the torque though. Look at that, full throttle out that corner, no traction light flickering. Very, very smooth and very fast. Okay, can we hit 60 before the corner? Hopefully. Can we? Yes, we can. She's still got it. Look at that. Woohoo! It's a pretty good chassis, really. So any of the bigger bumps like that, you do notice it is on the softer side. You know, this is just like an M Sport car. It's not a proper M Light or an M car. It's designed for comfort first at the end of the day. But being a BMW, whilst it's a bit softer than an M Light or M car, it still has a really nice balance to it. Interesting, we've got a bit of a leak in this road. A bit more than a leak, more of a lake. I mean, the only negative point I can think of so far really is just the steering. The rest of it, pretty good really. Alrighty, one last time. Let's go. Yeah, the ESC doesn't want you to go sideways in this. It says this is a 5 Series, this is more sophisticated than a 3 Series. Woo! Yeah, this thing's an absolute beast, man. It's a very tempting prospect. Economical, fast, smooth, quiet, comfortable. The only thing is that these particular engines were known for potentially having a bit of a timing chain issue. Now, this car has done 132,000 miles, and anything around the 150,000 mile mark, they do say it does need replacing. However, we spoke to a mechanic and they said it heavily, and I cannot overstate this enough, heavily depends on how the car has been serviced and exactly what type of oil has been used. Now, the previous owner of this car has been very diligent with their servicing, and yeah, there's no timing chain rattle. There's no signs, basically, according to a mechanic, that this car needs a timing chain change. How long that will stay like that for, though, I don't know. But I do think if you find one of these that has been looked after, it's a bit of a bargain, really. You're getting a premium luxury BMW barge that, you know, can potentially go up to like 250,000 miles before you start having some proper issues. It's just all about finding one that's been maintained well. Well, one like this, I suppose. I just cannot believe how well this car has been looked after. It is extraordinary. I mean, most BMW 5 Series with this kind of mileage on, you expect to see a whole host of codes come up when you plug in a code reader in the OBD port. This has none. That's like crazy. So again, smooth, quiet, comfortable, fast, potentially very reliable. What is not to love? And like £10,000. In my mind, that's a bargain. You know, if this car can do another 120,000 miles before it goes pop, I think that's worth it, really. You know, that's, for an average driver, that's 12 years of driving. And you're never going to keep this car for 12 years, right? Loads of people, especially in London at least, they change cars every year or every 2 years. And don't tell me they don't, because I used to work with sales teams regularly, and yeah, people would change cars like every 6 months. I bet you didn't think they'd do that. Maybe it's just a London thing then. So, if there's one thing you take away from this video, it's that maintenance matters most. Triple M, maintenance matters most. So if you're looking at a used car, at least, don't look too much, at least, at the mileage. You know, if it's done 500,000 miles, obviously the car's about to die, probably, unless it's a Toyota. But if you're looking at a car that's got around 100,000 miles, don't get too scared and think, absolutely pointless. There's no need for a car with that much mileage. It's going to die immediately as I buy it. Because the chances are, if it's been looked after, you've got another 10, 12 years of happy motoring, even if it's a BMW. So just remember that. Maintenance matters most. Anyway, as always, if you enjoy this type of content, please give us a like, and why not subscribe? As not only can you see more content like this, you can see everything we have for sale, which I think includes this very car. So if you want to come and have a look at what a 10-year-old 132,000 BMW 5 Series looks like, I will put a link down in the description so you can go and check it out. Of course, if you're still a bit, it's done 132,000 miles, don't really want a car that's done that kind of mileage, then I will put a link to the generic website where you can see some much lower mileage and much more expensive cars on the website. Anyway, as always, my name has been Tom, and you have been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.